respectfully, Newton Nichols, and I thank you for showing up once again. Push it up, bring it out, help one, reach one, teach one. Today I have a very, very special guest, a co-worker, and I do call her a friend. She is always giving back, always open to help, and just embraced me from when we first met. It was just like an instant click. So I bring you Bridgette Fabor.
Yes.
So I welcome you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you
And
for
thank
having me.
you for being willing to share your story, your triumphs, a lot of give backs, and no judgment, and in a safe place.
Great.
I want you to first just introduce yourself, give some background on who you are and how you've come to be, and then we'll start talking.
Wow. Who I am and who I've come to be. My.
I see you as something great. So
Wow. I think that that's something I struggle with being seen as someone doing something great. But let's see. I began with the airline as a very young lady. Mm-hmm. I was just shy of my 22nd birthday.
When you started?
When I started, yes. Wow. And I had not experienced anything in life, just very little. As a matter of fact, I had not even had a drink until I was near the end of training.
Okay, being an island family, that sounds weird. we started early, but wow.
Yeah, so I hadn't worn any makeup besides the day of the prom, and I couldn't wait to wash it off. And I, and then I got to work and looked around and all these fancy and glamorous looking young ladies. And I'm thinking, how did I get here? And who decided I belonged here? And I felt like a cadaver looking at everyone else. So I look like a cadaver next to these women. I need to try some of this stuff.
Now at 22, I'm guessing, at that age, going into the airline industry, didn't have a lot of people that looked like you.
Not too many. And the ones who were there, can I say handpicked?
I get it.
Hand-selected?
I get it.
And again, I was baffled as to how I could be included in that group. And I think I was so lost in that I wasn't even honored. I was just baffled at the time.
Like just, I got it? Okay, good.
Like, it was kind of someone to include me amongst all these people, not realizing that I was fortunate enough to be seen by someone who saw beneath the aesthetics, the girl who, had never arched her eyebrows, never had a stitch of makeup on, and had never been on an airplane besides, the day of my first interview, I had never been on an airplane. And so someone saw beyond that. And I don't know if I should even tell this, but the first day I came in, again, I was 21. I was a, great straight A student for the most part, and, person who worked and kept my commitments and, decent, great, good girl, And I wore the best thing that I had. I was working in a business casual attorney's office.
Okay.
As a receptionist or a legal receptionist, and still attending school. And so I wore my business attire for the office.
Okay.
I wore a very nice pair of slacks. I borrowed one of my mother's blazers, and I came in. And the gentleman who sat me down talked to me a little bit, and he said, "Look around at the other girls here." Looked around, and he said, "I really like you, and I think that you would be really great for this job. If I had you come back tomorrow, do you think that you could look a little bit more like them? Do you think you could dress a little bit more like them if I have you come back tomorrow? Because the people that I send you to in the next round might not see you the way I do. So
wow,
I'm going to have you come back tomorrow, and if you can dressed a little bit more like them.
I don't know why that's moving me right now.
It's moving me right now, and I loved it.
And one of the things I said, okay, you do the interview, you talk, you listen, you encourage, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm proud of him for seeing you, and then I'm hurt by the fact that I get it. He knows that I see you. They're not going to see you, and this is only round one, so I get it. But inside, it's stirring. Like, you see her, like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, because I felt that. Okay,
yeah, but all I could do was appreciate it, because he said to me, "You'll be great at this job, and I would like to see you with this job, but the people in the next room may not look beyond that. They won't see you. I basically, I know my people.
Okay.
And you need to look like the rest of these girls,
right,
in order to even get a chance, because they won't hear your words.
Okay.
They'll be looking at your outfit."
Yeah.
And so, and the next day I went back in a business suit, and here I am.
And we're grateful for whoever that young man is. We thank you.
Yes. And how did that describe me? How did I end up?
This is why I like doing this. I really do. And I'm new to this, right? The passion is to help one, reach one, teach one, save one.
Yes.
And to tell our story of where that pain came from and how we became that lotus flower that floated to the top, right? That's what it is for me. And so when I know people who have stories like that, I clearly don't know your whole life. I don't. But then when I sit down, and so far, each person that I've sat with, and some that I've knew since 14, and I talk, and then I hear something like just like, wow, like, so that. I don't know. I don't know what that just did, but I'm just like, the things we have to go through, to just kind of get in the park. Not on the team.
Right.
Can I just come in the park?
Can I just get in the park?
Yeah. And even if you don't see me, can I just be on the team? I'll sit on the bench for a while, but I just need the chance to show when you call me when you call me up, I'm ready. And we have to do so much more just to get up to bat. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I guess that's the frustration maybe I'm feeling, because it's just like, that's not the story for everybody. So that's a part of developing that shy girl.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I wasn't shy at all. No one knew.
See, when I hear someone doesn't like to shop, I'm like, oh, they're shy. They don't know what to put. That's how I receive that.
Not at all.
Okay.
I didn't like to shop because I didn't like to have to try things on. I didn't have to look at myself in the mirror in the dressing room. I didn't like to have to feel that this doesn't. Listen. I wish there's so much to tell, and so there's so many things that happened to get me to that point. But that's where I was at the time. You know, I've always been outgoing, never shy, even as a child. My father says, "Oh, she's never met a stranger," you know, from the time I was a child. And so I've never been shy or an introvert. However, I don't. A person who didn't know me would assume that I was, because I went to work, I went to school, and I went home, and I didn't do much of anything else. Which is how I never experiments or dabbled with any drinking or parties or things like that. Which my younger sister calls me an L7 square.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Oh yeah, well she's country. L.
Oh, the 7.
And a 7.
Okay.
Square.
I never. Okay. I'm gonna try that on my kids later. I'm gonna try that. And then they're gonna really call me square. Like, who does that?
Who does that?
Okay. Now, how long to date have you been with the airline?
23 and a half years.
Okay. So that's me entering the 23rd year now.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Yeah. I started, my first flight was about 10 days before my 22nd birthday. And I'm now 45. doesn't feel real. It feels like a lie. Every time I say it, it doesn't seem possible. But yeah.
From a baby, pretty much.
Yes, I've spent my entire adulthood in this industry, in this career.
Meeting friends and families.
Yeah.
Some foes. It is what it is. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you look at it from the girl you were at 22 walking in the door to where you are now? Everything that's happened in between that developed you, your strengths, your weaknesses. How did that shape Bridgette?
I must tell you, because I had never done anything, I had never gone anywhere. I had never traveled. I'd never seen anything. I got my passport was mailed to me while at training because I didn't have one prior to being offered the job. Okay. I had never experienced any of these things. And so, for me, my first exposure to really being around large crowds of people, going out for dinner, or going to try and just walk around and walk into a club or a bar, just exploring, sightseeing. My first experiences were with all these strangers.
So it was different for you.
It was different. So yeah, and it was not anxiety. But how fortunate I am that my first exposure to the world was literally being exposed to the world.
Right.
That's a bonus.
Right. That's a
right. So I went from a girl that was just born in the city and moved quite a bit at some point growing up, and I went from that to I don't want to say being culturally unaware, but not having any experience culturally whatsoever. Just being fairly insulated, and not purposely by my parents or anything. It's just my choice, I suppose. And from being completely isolated and not really doing much, but still open, friendly, willing to speak to people.
But that's you. That's your
that's
a
me.
personality.
Yeah, it's my personality. I just, hadn't had any place to sprinkle it yet.
Right. You
So,
didn't get to bless people yet. Right.
Exactly. So for me to be on an airplane where, in your situation, it didn't occur to me that this could be something uncomfortable because of that added aspect of me being the only person. Everything was exposure. Everything was brand new. Everyone was brand new. So, and when I was young, but we were talking about the anxiety the job brought, and the concern and the guilt and all those things. All of my concerns and all the things that hurt me, stressed me, or shaped the bad experiences that shaped some things in me, all happened before I came to this job.
So I wanna shift to that. I never want anything to come back to people where you're hurt. Somebody's hurt and now they don't want to speak to you, and people feel like, oh, I wish I had. I want people to know you're free to say whatever you want to say. And when you feel like you don't want to go anymore, because it's a fearful thing, you don't go anymore.
I've got past those fearful stages. It's been years, and
so I'm finally
at the point now where I share openly. I will share often, and
because there's someone watching, someone who's going to see this, who doesn't have support, who isn't at a place where you finally reached. People go through tragedies, and when you feel you are alone and you can't speak to someone about it, you act out in such a way that you can't come back from. You make a permanent decision for a temporary situation.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning that. I'm still in and out of that. But I want you to take your time and share what you want to share and how you want to share it about our conversation.
Well,
you take your time.
Well, I'm gonna go from the middle to the beginning.
Okay.
and then now.
Okay.
So when I started training for this job, I suppose it was in May. I had just been released from the mental hospital, and I believe I'm proud of myself for not remembering the date exactly anymore. That's growth. But I'm assuming February or March of that year. And then I went to training in May and started this whole new life. Just being out of the mental hospital for, I was placed there for a 72-hour hold because my mother was afraid that I would attempt to end my life. I suppose she was justified. She was. I didn't want to experience life anymore. I didn't want to cry every day. I didn't want to feel the way I felt every day. But I knew that I wouldn't kill myself. I wouldn't end my life, but I sure wanted it to be over. My mother was fearful, and rightfully so. Had me go to the hospital for 72 hours. And by that time, I had been spiraling into a deep depression for my entire collegiate career. So for 4 years, actually it was a 5-year plan, I changed my major. But from sophomore year through the 5th year, it was an entire 4 years where I cried every single day for 4 years straight.
And this is while you were
in college.
Were you away at school?
I was away. When I came home the 5th year, that's when I was. I didn't have roommates because from the time I was a sophomore, as a sophomore, I was given a floor of girls as a CA at that school, but an RA. I was a year young. Who would do that? I was 17 years old as a freshman. I was 18 years old, and they gave me this floor. Some were women. They weren't just freshmen. They were all.
You were the RA?
I was the RA. I've never interviewed for a job and not gotten it.
Younger viewers who have not embarked on college yet, resident assistants, which means she's running
the floor of girls.
The floor at a college at how old?
I was 18.
18 years old.
I've never interviewed for a job and not gotten it, but I must say I probably should not have gotten it.
Okay.
I was a year younger than everyone else. And little did they know how much I was struggling with my own self-image and just making it day to day. And so the responsibilities that came with that were a challenge on top of just me just making sure I get out of bed and shower and go make it to class and eat each day. But I say all that to say from my sophomore year through the rest of my college career, I did not have a roommate. And so there was no one that I had to put on the show, the Bridgette show.
The mask is what I call it.
Right. It's the Bridgette show. Always energetic. Always smiling.
Always
happy.
Making sure they're okay.
Got a jokey joke. And it's not that it's phony. It's not that it's fake. And I wouldn't even say that it was a mask. Perhaps you're correct though. But it was just me pulling myself together to leave my solitude. So I had to pull myself together to open the door and leave my room each day. Some days I didn't do it, so I didn't leave. Many days. But 4 years, I cried every single day. And by that last year of school, when I was home, my mother would come in from work. Didn't you have class today? Yes. Did you go? No. Were you wearing that yesterday? Yes. Were you wearing the day before? Yes. Other stuff. And so a lot of times I would just lay and face the wall and just tears would just fall out of my eyes and I'd just cry and cry and cry. And that also, and you would think that it was about my self-esteem. Oh, I think I'm ugly. Oh, I think I'm fat. Listen, do not waste your thin years think that you are fat because you are not.
Don't waste your fingers. Okay.
Thinking you're fat.
I like that.
Because I did. I'll tell you, when I first got this job, I refused to do any layover that was on the beach. I refused. I didn't go anywhere that was hot. If I had an opportunity to do a Cancun or a Detroit, I would not. I would go to Detroit instead because I didn't want to put on a bathing suit. I didn't want to see my legs. I held myself back so much in my life, in my career. You have no idea because of this self-esteem issue. And I tell you, you have no idea where it originates. You think it's really about, a couple of dimples or some hail damage on your butt. You think it's about some cottage cheese on your legs. You think it's about that, but it's so more. It's much more deep seated than that. And so here I was. So now I'll go to the middle. Freshman year of college. I had my boyfriend, and I had just started to become active, and he wanted to. Can we just talk? Okay. So he wanted to add in some oral activity to our repertoire.
He wanted you to sing on the mic.
Yes.
Yeah,
He can sing on it. Yes. He didn't want me to sing. No, he did.